Today, I am joined by the amazing Clarke Carlisle. Clarke and I met each other a few years ago now, and we keep on bumping into each other on a regular basis, unplanned as
Yes.
well. And he has very kindly agreed to come and do a podcast with me today because every single time I've heard you speak over the last few years, it's really touched me. And I would like to explore and for you to be open and brave enough to share a little bit of the story of yourself with all of our listeners and with everybody because you've touched me, you've inspired me, and um, yeah, it's powerful. It's very powerful, and it's a story that needs to be heard by more. So, if I may, if I may,
Yeah.
if I may be brave enough to say, will you tell me a little bit more?
I will, my friend. Alex, thank you for that intro. Everyone needs their ego massage, don't they? I like the amazing Clarke Carlisle. It's like my pronouns. Can I choose my own adjectives?
Yeah, hey, yeah.
The amazing, incredible,
Oh, yeah.
philosophical Clarke Carlisle.
It's like a superpower. It's like a superpower.
No, that's very kind of you, mate. And yeah. I won't go so far as saying I love sharing my experience
No.
because it's. Each time you share it, you know this. Each time you share it, you go back there.
Oh.
You reliving certain aspects of it.
It was only a couple of weeks ago in Leeds where you share and you spoke about something that I didn't know, and I felt in my own body, I felt your discomfort, and I felt that basically you had to regroup, and that's the sort of power of it, and that's the sort of power of it, and I think. Yeah, and this is why I speak so openly about my experiences. This is why I advocate, and I want you to come and chat with me because it's like so important that people realize it's okay to talk.
Definitely. And that's an aspect that I'm very comfortable with. I'm okay sharing my experiences from my perspective in that hope that someone can get to this position of wellness that we're in
Yeah.
without having to go through what we've been
Oh,
through.
yeah.
That's the aim. That being said, when I do relay my experiences, what you can't get away from is the impact that life choices and events have had on other people. And I think that's something that it never diminishes. What has diminished is my guilt and my shame about it. I've worked on that. What doesn't diminish is the acknowledgement that it had a profound impact on those around me. No human operates in a vacuum or is an island, So when I do share, while I share, I don't want anyone to think that I'm dismissive of the ramifications,
It's a ripple effect.
It is.
It's a ripple
huge.
effect. And, we can never move away from that. It's not just you.
Exactly.
It's the effect on your friends, your family, your children, and it just ripples out your work colleagues, everybody. And nobody actually probably ever realizes the ripple that it has, across the board.
And what's interesting about it is that I had undiagnosed recurrent depression for some 10 years. And in those 10 years, it was blatantly obvious in my actions that I was someone who was in some kind of distress that needed help. It's blatantly obvious with these eyes today.
Yes.
Whereas at the time, it was just packaged as though it was either immature behavior, laddish behavior. It was selfish behavior. It was, all of these things that were judging the actions without looking at the reasons for the actions.
The underlying.
Or just a total lack of knowledge that there were mental health reasons for the actions, and we'll come to it. But, things like gambling behaviors, they're often superficially packaged as a financial action.
Yeah.
Why are you doing it? You've got money, or you're always going to lose, or you haven't got money. Why are you doing it? Well, yes, there is a huge financial, consequence around gambling. But for many people, and I was one of them, it was rarely to do with money.
No.
You know, it was to do with emotional avoidance. It was to do with escapism. It was to do with an illogical thought that I had a skill set that meant I could win, or you know, all of these things that tied into me going back. And then, as we've just seen in recent court cases, you know, these organizations, these companies who prey on psychological techniques to wrap you in there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so again, I digress. So let me tell you a little bit about me.
Yeah, take me back to the small little boy
Wow.
stage. Let's take it right back. Let's think about the little boy. You know, what was it like growing up for you? What was it like, you know?
Yeah, little Clarky, I can picture him because of the old, you know, photos that we used to have photo albums.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh, I do.
Yeah, didn't scroll for it.
No.
It was there.
Well, we didn't have phones.
Exactly.
We didn't have phones.
You know, little Clarky with his big afro, big smile, had many more teeth, and they were white. You know, I was such an enthusiastic child. I was so keen to be involved, to learn, and the reasons for that were multifaceted. They were generational and societal conditioning, environmental conditioning of the highest order.
Okay,
Now,
I see, and that intrigues me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I only know that now through therapy.
Yeah.
I only know that now through reflection and understanding, and I would encourage everyone, go through that process in a safe space. Because, you know, what I found is that when I came to moments of challenge and crisis and trauma as a young adult and an adult, I was responding as 6-year-old Clarke. Because I'd learned things that worked then,
Yes.
but I hadn't, you know, with any kind of consciousness, analyzed them to see if they worked for me as a 20-year-old man, as a 30-year-old man. And I'm still doing the same, especially in the context of emotional responses and emotion management and literacy. So 6-year-old Clarky is just keen, mad keen. And the reason why I'm mad keen, we were skint growing up. We had no money. Grew up in a council estate in Preston, and I had a black dad and a white mum, and that's really relevant.
Yeah,
it's relevant because Dad carried that traditional identity of what it was to be a man and a father. You know, back straight, head down, crack on. The physical aspect of it was compounded because he had to be prepared and had to fight people to be with my mum. You know, so it is strength, masculinity, dealing with your business. You know, that was all intertwined in what Dad showed me. But because he was a 6'5" black man living in the north of England in Preston, raising a family in the 70s and 80s, even though he was intelligent and hardworking, he couldn't get or keep a job. You know, people wouldn't give him the time of day. And this really cut him. It cut him at his knees. And he dealt with that the way a lot of Caribbean men did, still do. He locked himself in his room, he smoked weed. So, you know, big tranches of childhood where I didn't get daily time with my dad.
Yeah.
He was upstairs or he was out and about trying to feed his family, which I've got so much love and respect for my parents, you know. That as I share this, people need to know there's no judgment in me.
No, and you've got to go back to what it was like for them.
Yes.
As well. And this is the thing, because times have changed, it's evolved.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine, you know, being in your dad's shoes back in the 70s, the 80s, you know, and having that adversity, being faced against that every single day.
Mm-hmm.
It's wrong.
Mate, he had to live through. There were two options for black men, black people, and minoritized communities in that era. You either confronted or you conformed.
Yeah.
And if you confronted at that time, you were the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you had a chip on your shoulder, or all of that stuff. So there was no gain in that other than physical confrontation. Yeah. You know, and if you conformed, then, you know, oftentimes you're undermined by your own community because you were acquiescing to the man, you know. So there was no win for him. But, you know,
It's no wonder that he wanted to hide away and didn't want to be.
Of course.
You know, because how else would you feel?
He was a proud man.
Exactly. How else
you
would you
know.
feel? I can like put myself, I can feel it in his shoes now, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, you just want to be on your own, like, sitting away from everybody, and just wouldn't want to know that what was going on.
At those times, very different today, in what was his sanctuary.
Yes.
In those days, once you shut the front door,
Yeah.
the world was outside.
Yeah, of course.
You know, there were 3, maybe 4 channels on the telly. No one got in.
Yeah.
We had a house phone, a landline that nobody rang and we didn't use. You know, that was Dad's sanctuary. And again, I've got to reiterate, you know, I'm so proud of my parents. They did the best that they could with what they had and what they knew at the time.
Yeah.
And they taught us you don't need money for a loving household, don't need money for a clean household, don't need money for basic manners and respect.
No.
You know, and they've instilled that in us as kids. But my dad used to work for the church for food parcels to feed his kids. Can you imagine what that did to his identity?
Of course.
Yeah, how
exactly.
he felt?
Yeah. And it's that wealth, the self-worth, isn't it?
Yes,
basically,
exactly.
It's basically drumming you down all the time, drumming you down, making you feel, and it's just pushing it down, pushing it down, pushing it down. So I can understand, I can understand why he basically wanted to use the weed. I can totally understand it.
So 6-year-old Clarky saw that I saw me dad when I was very good, and he'd come down, well done, son, ruffle my hair.
We haven't gone yet. We haven't gone yet. We need a wig. We need a wig.
Hey, we're bold by choice.
Yeah,
all right?
by choice.
We did this to ourselves. So he'd be, well done, son, and that'd be getting full marks on a test. It'd be scoring goals. It'd be all that stuff. So that's when I get the positive input. I'd also seen when I was very bad, and this was the 70s and 80s, all right, it was acceptable. So I'd be bad, Dad'd come on, boom.
Crap.
Don't do that. So, like I said, this guy was 6'5". He's got a hand the size of Africa to me. At 6-year-old.
6 years old. At 6 years old.
I did not want to feel the back of the hand. So I strove to be good.
Yeah.
I strove to get full marks, to score all the goals. And more than that, my dad, when he was younger and I was very young, he used to play Saturday and Sunday leagues in Preston. He was a brilliant footballer. So I'd go and watch him play. I would make a scrapbook of my dad's footballing exploits, which I've still got. Merv the Swerve, in the Lancashire Evening Post.
Love it.
And dad scoring all these goals. And we had do you remember those bay window glass cabinets?
Yes.
We had one of them at home. And one of my chores on a Saturday, cleaning the front room, cleaning this cabinet. And I had to clean all dad's trophies, top goal scorer, player of the year. And I'm like, one day, Mum, I'm going to have more trophies.
I want to be like Dad.
Yeah. So I achieved that age 14, so I had to reassess my goals. I was like, Mum, one day I'm going to have more professional trophies than Dad's got in that cabinet. So to be young Clarky was to be the best. It was to get full marks. It was to score all the goals. And that was to get that parental affirmation, to get that connection with my dad. Now, I said it was multifaceted. The second aspect of that home environment was Mum. Now, Mum was my consistent love. She was the safe space. Not sure what mood Dad's in. Right, go to Mum, get the cuddles. Now, I used to wet the bed. I wet the bed until I was like 17 years of age, considering I left home at 16, 17 years of age. So Mum's my consistent love. Every morning, and I'm talking it was every day up until about 13, 14, every day I'd wet the bed and she's so frustrated. We've got no money. She can't afford to be cleaning the bedding every
single day.
So we went through all these phases of going to the doctors, getting alarms, putting plastic sheets on. It was like sleeping on a big bag of crisps. And Mum had put my mattress in the front garden to dry it out, and I'd get shamed, and it was horrendous. So every morning when I left the house, because I pissed my mum off quite literally, it was my life's mission then to win Mum back. I had to win back that love. So I had to go and do something exceptional in the day so that I could come back and show it to mum and be like, Mum, look,
To make
do
up.
you still love me?
Yeah, God, that's
So,
like,
right, you've got that driving me.
yeah,
Now, on top of that, I and we are, now I can say this because it was self-identification at the time, we were half-caste kids.
yes.
And that's how we self-labeled ourselves. Different conversation, political correctness. Steve Pinker called it the euphemism treadmill. And it does my nutting. We were half-caste kids and we were happy at that. We understood that was our
Yeah.
self-identification. But then someone says, no, you can't say that anymore. You're mixed race. No, you can't say that anymore. You're of mixed heritage. No, you can't say that anymore. You're a person of color. No, you can't say that anymore. You're a black person. I'm like, who's making these decisions?
Yeah. I'm Clarke.
On what and who I'm
Clarke.
allowed to be.
Yeah,
you know?
I am Clarke.
It's insane. So anyhow, that's a different conversation. I walk out into this predominantly white council estate, and I'm talking like 97, 8, 9% white. I go to a school that is equally predominantly white, and we are different. We are other than. Got people poking my hair because I've got a big afro. Oh, what happens when it gets wet? Can I touch it? All this. So when I and my siblings went out, we didn't make friends. We had to earn them. We had to prove ourselves. And to do that, you had to be the funniest, the best, the sportiest, the cleverest, the most mischievous, whatever it took.
The amount of drive that was just basically instilled into you. You know, every single thing in your life was all about that drive, the best. Got to be the best. Got to do this well. Got to get this person to respect me, this person to love me, this person to like me. It's like, wow.
Right. It's
phenomenal.
It's exhausting.
To be honest.
It's exhausting. And I didn't come to that realization until I got to psychiatric hospital. But I've got the drive to do everything, be successful, do all this, but none of the acknowledgement of it, none of the value in the outcome isn't my choice.
No.
The value in the outcome is in dad's response. It's in mum's response. It's in my teacher's response. It's in my friend's response. So I become the ultimate people pleaser.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a mask for everyone and I'll do whatever it takes to be whatever you need in this moment.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I go around the corner, I see Alan, different mask, I'm going to be what Alan needs.
Yeah.
When I go and see Sophie, different mask, I'll be what... So I was a million things for a million people, and I never knew who I was, nor did I place any value on my opinion of me.
We didn't know yourself.
I didn't.
You didn't know yourself because all you did, and I relate to this, I totally relate to this, that you didn't know who you truly were, what you needed, or what you liked.
Exactly that, mate.
And I totally relate to that because it has only been in the last 3 years that I have begun to get to know myself after 46 years of being on this planet.
It's insane, isn't it? When you think
it's
about
totally
it.
insane. It's totally insane. But it's just, it happens to so many of us. It happens to so many of us. And
even more so nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I were restricted to physical interaction.
Yeah.
Nowadays, instantaneous judgment is here.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we live in a comparison society.
Yeah.
Where what you might think you've just done the greatest thing, you share it via social media, and then it's instantly analysed and dissected and compared and contrasted, and it's great, it's terrible, it's 1 star, it's 5 star, 7,000 likes, no likes, all of this. And if I had that as a young man... Mate, it would have destroyed me.
Yeah, I agree.
It would have destroyed me in that environment.
Yeah, because it's just that instant judgment, that instant, what does somebody else think? And, you know, no.
I mean, it came in when so I was halfway through my career when social media started to rise, Twitter and such like. And I remember, you know, I'd come off the pitch at the end of a game, and I'd have hundreds of messages that were sent in real time telling me, what are you doing that for? You're shit, blah, blah, blah. Or if I'd had a good game and, you know, well done, Clarke, you're the greatest ever. But let's say I had 99 great messages and 1 bad one. It would be my life's mission to convince that one person that no, I'm good, I'm a good person,
And that's how
I
you,
really
yeah.
try.
And
Oh
that's the people
gosh,
pleaser in
exactly.
both of us. And I'll give you an example of that. So I do some stuff on TikTok and all my
Hmm.
social platforms, and I don't look at the comments. I don't bother because I'm not interested. I'm not doing it for anyone else. I'm doing it to try and help other people. And my son said, "Dad, have you seen this? This,"
Right.
and it was funny. And I was like that. And this guy's going on to me, "Just have a beer, will you? Bore, you boring, you bore, you boring cat. Just go back and have a beer." And I was like, that. I was laughing, saying to Marcus, "It doesn't bother me what anyone else is." But
Yeah,
years ago, it would have bothered
it
me.
would have
It would
destroyed.
have destroyed me, and I would have had to go back to him. And I would have had to do this, and I would have had to justify everything, and would have
Yeah.
got into that. And I'm just like, let it go.
Hmm.
Totally. But I have had to go through so much to get to that place. And it's bizarre. So I completely
Hmm.
understand, what you're saying.
Before I go to the next step in the story, just on that there, finding your authentic self and how you found yourself in these recent years and myself in the last 7, 8, 9 years, did you have the same fear that I had? Because when I fully, I became deliberate and decided to start the exploration of what it is to be well and finding out who I am, I was terrified because I was like, if I go through therapy and I find out who I am, what if the real Clarke Carlisle's an absolute dick?
Yeah.
What if the
I was
real Clarke
petrified.
is
I
someone who
was
people will hate?
I was petrified. I was petrified. I literally, and I this is God's honest truth. I remember doing my inner child in one of my stints in rehab, and I spent 2 days in bed afterwards because of the amount of
Yes.
emotion that
Mm-hmm.
drained out of me. And people who haven't done therapy or haven't, done any proper work are looking at me going, "What?" And I spent 2 days where I couldn't get out of bed. I was,
Mm-hmm.
excuse my French, but I was drained.
Mm-hmm.
I was totally and utterly drained.
Drained isn't French.
I was about to use another word. I was about to use another word, and I changed it.
I
And I
saw you.
changed
Brilliant,
it.
brilliant. I love it.
You know, when you like that.
No,
But
I've got a family member who's going through a lot of exploratory work now. I'm not going to go into too many details, but that off the back of something, then there's something. They're doing a lot of therapeutic work and the childhood stuff, decimating them.
yeah,
Really putting them in existential, emotional states. It's oh gosh, it's really, really tough. And at the same point, it's profound.
yeah,
It really is the rock bed of change, I believe, in effective change, in understanding who I am now as an adult,
oh,
in understanding that this is why I respond in that way. And not only that, it's something that I developed as a kid to protect me then,
yeah,
but I don't need to do that
no,
now.
no,
It
but
doesn't pay service now. It's a very immature response that's subconscious and autopilot,
yeah,
and I can choose to change that now.
yeah, and
Mm.
yeah. Listen, I think both you and I are fascinated by the place we were, the places we've gone to, and the places we've now come out the other
Hmm.
side, and how much we both advocate that you have to keep learning, you have to keep
Definitely.
changing, you have to keep updating. It's like having a reboot on your phone. It's
Yeah,
like it's like
like it.
servicing your
Yeah.
car, isn't it? Because I genuinely I'm learning every single day, and I'm probably
Hmm.
adapting every single month. And each 6 months, I'm probably becoming slightly different, slightly, wiser, slightly doing things in a different way. And it's great. It's self-development. It's allowing me to grow.
That is the greatest growth, mate, and it has to be like that because we evolve, and what even now in wellness, what suited me in 2020 doesn't suit me now in
No.
2026. And it'll be different to what it was in 2023, and that's because circumstances around us change, the other people's situations change, who may at one point have been our most trusted counsel, but something happens in their life, in their world, and you know their ability to be that counsel changes, or they pass away. You know, my dad passed away unexpectedly, and for the last 10 years, you know, he was just my rock. This man. I mean, I'm conscious that we've barely gone into, you know, the
I know.
story.
Listen, mate,
but
honestly, I think we could literally. So, okay, and you're right, you know, because me and you could literally talk for a week.
all day.
You could give us all day and we would still be talking. So, we've got to the stage where we understand that you are this driven, people-pleasing, massively over-accomplishing. You're basically, you know, become this amazing footballer, don't you? And you're in the spotlight, you've got all the accolades that go with it, you know, to everybody else, you're probably on a pedestal, you know, to everybody, you know, but what's going on? Tell me, what's going on?
Oh, you know, football, it was everything to me because of that connection with Dad, realising both of our dreams. And the thing about living your dream is that at a point, it's not the dream because it's the reality. Yeah. And the reality is it's your job. So everything you're doing now becomes consequential to you literally paying your bills, feeding your children. And the thing about football is when I think, you know, if you were to design the perfect environment for a people pleaser, it's football.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter what I think about what I've done.
Yeah.
What matters is what the manager thinks, what the coaches think, what the chairperson thinks, what the fans think, what the press thinks. These are all the opinions that formulate my position in the game.
Yeah.
And unless you are of the Wayne Rooney, Cristiano Ronaldo, Thierry Henry, edge of the elite, where you're untouchable because your quality will
and
always transcend.
The 1% or whatever it
Mate,
is. But it's probably
the 0.001%.
There you go.
If you're a Premier League footballer, you're in the 0.001%.
Oh my gosh.
Of all the people who want to play the game. If you're playing football professionally, you're in the 0.1%. That's what the figures are to make the game.
That is scary.
But people don't see that.
No.
Because football's so tangible to everyone.
Yeah.
You're so lucky to play this game. There is an element of luck, as there is in anyone's life, you know, journey and working experience. But the commitment, dedication, ability, sacrifice, all of that is far undervalued. Now, for someone who's a people pleaser in that environment, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be whatever that coach wants today, and then whatever that manager wants today.
Whatever everybody else wants.
When I walk down the street and the fan needs this, I'll do that for you. I'll do that for you. And it is absolutely exhausting. Oh, the part of it where it was destructive was because I had a massive knee injury at 20. So I started at Blackpool. I got a move down to QPR. I got a call up to England under 21s. You know, for a kid who started on £27.50 a week at 16, at 20, I was on £2,500 a week. From a council estate, mate, this was insane.
It's blows your mind, doesn't it?
It was phenomenal, and everything about it was awesome. Playing on the telly, international caps, knocking around with these guys in West London, you know, on a night. It was wonderful. And then I got this injury where I snapped my ACL, my LCL, popliteus, ITB, rotated the fibular head, dislodged the nerve, ripped the hamstring off. This right knee.
Mate, I couldn't say all that again if I tried.
It's a well-rehearsed script.
Have you practiced that?
It's acronym city.
Yeah. You blew my mind. I was going, hold on a minute.
Well, it stands to reason that when I went on Britain's Brainiest Footballer, a show with Carol Vorderman, a game show, my specialist subject was human biology.
Oh, was it?
And that was because
of
that injury.
You'd
yeah, I was in the physio room for 2 years after that. Out of the game, yeah.
And you had to be stimulated.
Well, yeah.
You had to be stimulated.
Because of this drive for me
because
to
of this
learn
drive.
and know.
Exactly. You had to be stimulated.
Exactly.
So what did you do? You went and learned about the human body.
All of it.
All of it.
and I loved it.
Yeah, exactly, because you were stimulated by it.
Exactly. And when I was injured, so I did that in a night game against Fulham. I had an operation some 3 days later, and the surgeon, the specialist, he said, your knee's buggered. He said, you're not going to play football again. You're going to need a stick. So, with that just destroyed me. I used the coping mechanisms that I'd learnt. And this is another thing that's different, like generationally. As a teenager, I went on the park and drank Merrydown cider and played two drag shot with my mates,
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas my children, oh gosh, they wouldn't dream
No.
of doing that.
No.
Those interactions and social interactions are very different. But that's what I learned.
Yeah.
And compounded by the way my mum and dad used to have a bottle of Leaf from Moush and a bottle of Hock every Friday night, and dad had smoked weed in his room. It was all self-medication. It was all that escapism. So I drank myself into oblivion in a flat in Acton and took an overdose because I couldn't find the answer to this problem that had been given me. Now that there is the inception of my depression. Obviously, I was found, taken to hospital, put my stomach, but I was discharged from hospital by the club physio, and he said, Clarke, that was silly. Don't do that again. So rather than that being an entry point to services, it was my naughty little secret. And we pretended that it never happened.
Yeah, that's like, so dangerous, isn't it?
Oh, gosh. But this was 2001.
Yeah.
So we're looking back with 2026 eyes. But that was what happened then. And even though the people pleaser in Clarke wanted to confound the surgeon, I wanted to prove to everyone that I have value, I got physically well, but I didn't do any psychological or emotional work because it wasn't a thing. And because there was no cognizance of it, there was no support for it. So my depression started then, and it manifested itself in cyclical, destructive, what I can see now, emotional avoidance, distraction behavior every 2 or 3 months for years and years and years and years. And the thing about that is, like we said right at the top, that people would comment on and judge the action. So why is Clarke on a 3-day bender? Oh, because they won at the weekend. Oh, because they lost at the weekend. Oh, because he's a footballer.
Because he's had a good
because
day,
he's an
because
idiot.
he's had a bad day. Yeah.
And people would reason it away rather than, or they'd justify it rather than looking for the reason. And so would I, because I didn't know. But then it became a problem because professional sport and alcoholism don't work. I went through rehab, came out, not drinking, but still exploding. Gambling, sleep, computer games, all of these things, which the reason why they were existentially problematic for me is because I was doing these things and I didn't know why. I didn't want to do them, but it was compulsive. It was auto response.
It almost feels to me like we are very similar in the fact that the stimulation, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's, drink, drugs, whatever, you learning about the human body.
Mm-hmm.
It's that stimulation because it's not actually getting comfortable with ourselves or who we are or actually being in our own, it's always looking for something else to fill our time, to fill our, basically self-worth. That's how
fill time, justify existence.
Justify existence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's almost because I am like, I relate to you because it's almost like I had to be all at training or all at drinking, all at drugs, all at gambling, all at learning. Everything was always, and even to this day, I've got to be stimulated. I have to be stimulated, but I've got to find the balance of being stimulated because too much stimulation is not good. And I hear that sort of that desperate search for it. And I think what so many people don't realise is all the talking in our own heads that we do. The criticism, the self-doubt, the, always that inner thought. Everybody does it.
Of course they do.
Everybody does it. And it's almost like, people don't realise that actually it's okay to speak about it.
Oh, definitely. Not that it's okay. We must.
Yeah, well, we must
because you've got to get some critical, objective insight into our internal thoughts, and this is what the point I'm coming to about why it was so destructive, is that the actions were totally incongruent with who I thought I was in my head. You know, I had this. Not only did I feel like I wanted to be an achiever and an upstanding member of the community and blah, 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 I was stepping into positions where I presented as such. So I was chairman of the PFA. I was a Premier League footballer. You know, I was doing all of these things where I would stand front of house and say, "Oh yeah, this is really important." When in here, I'm like, "You charlatan! Who do you
Yeah.
think you are? You're an absolute fraud. Oh, you're going to get caught out today, my son. Oh, they haven't seen how dirty your house is. They haven't seen this. They haven't seen you when you're 17 pints deep crawling down the gutter."
Yeah.
And it destroyed
Well,
me.
it's like the yin and the yang pushing against each other, isn't
Yeah.
it? You know, where basically you've got the devil. I describe it as the devil in my head. You
Hmm.
know, because I still it still talks to me now. My addiction still talks to me. My self doubt, my safe, all the little things still talk to me, and I just have a little chat back with it and play it through these days, and it's okay. I found a way. I found my way of coping with it. But it's like you've got that constant at you, and then you've got all these people looking at you over here and thinking, "Oh, this amazing person," and it's like amazing down here, and it's like there, isn't it?
The disparity is huge, mate, and it caused so many problems for me because it's just running, running, running at 100 miles an hour. And because I'm not talking, because I'm not sharing, because I'm not getting any objectivity on these thoughts,
Yeah,
that I believe them,
yeah,
that they're my truth, and that hypercritical voice that what you've just mentioned there, and it was a really profound moment for me, was that understanding that everybody has the intrusive first thought.
yeah,
The first thought, it can be something that you don't even believe.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Oh,
it's something
100%.
that
It just
just
pops
comes
in.
from
Yeah, it
left,
just
right, and
pops in.
center. Well, I used to think that that thought defined who I was. So with me thinking, oh, whatever it is, oh, I could have just done that. I'm like, oh, Clark, you're a terrible person. You're an absolute failure of a human being. You know, and I could not get away from that. And then because I'm a thinker and a ruminator, I will run through that a million times a second, blah
And then
blah
you
blah,
start building on it, don't you?
and it's horrendous.
Yeah, and
So understanding what you've just said, that first thought is largely irrelevant. It comes from West. What defines me is not just my second thought, which I can be deliberate about. I
yeah,
can counter the first one. I can bring in a disruptor. But more importantly, it's my first action. So what do I do off the back of my thinking? And if any of my thinking is of concern, who am I sharing that with
hundred
to
percent.
get good counsel on my thoughts? And they would be the two things that I would like to leave with people. You know, you're thinking it can be auto response subconscious, but we can be deliberate about our second thought, and we must be deliberate about our first action. And it's your first action that defines you.
I always say I can't control what thoughts or feeling come into my brain, but I can choose what I do with it.
Perfect
And
choice.
yeah, and it's choice, and it
Mhm.
is choice, and literally, it's choice, mate. You have had probably one of the most inspiring journeys, I'm going to say, because genuinely, you have basically had the adversity as a child, you've had the success, and you've been like on a pedestal, and then you've had the mental challenge, and you've had that real tough challenge, and you've basically found a way of working it through. And okay, there's been big ripples and there's been a big effects, and everybody's, but let's be honest, where you have got to today is inspirational, and the family will be inspired by it, and the difference that you have now made to the family and the ripple effect uh, alongside that is amazing.
You're,
So
you're 100% right, because, you know, our, negative actions and experiences have a ripple effect, but positive ones do too. And I think they're heard and they're heard keener and can last longer. Um, you know, and just for people listening, it wasn't as though that was my change. You know, I went through multiple suicide attempts right through up until 2017. But that conscious choice to work on my wellness as much as I worked on anything else in my life, to prioritize it, to learn me, self-awareness, emotionally, how I think, how I communicate, and then how I act on that. That's what's transformed my life.
Yeah.
And doing that with my family around me, and allowing them permission to be brutally honest, and for me to share honestly in return. That's the foundation of real growth.
You're an inspiration. Honestly, you are an inspiration. And I feel like we could have talked for hours, but I'm going to wrap it up there for today. And I'm going to have you back in a minute, and we're going to do, what are you doing now? Why are you doing it? And we're going to talk a bit more about some stuff that we can do together in the future.
All right, it's a
But for
date.
now, thank you very much.